Tuesday morning, Cofield and Company. John Von Tobel is in Las Vegas. Hugh Cofield here in Daytona Beach following Runnin Rebel basketball. We'll get to Rebel football and the results from the weekend and some info on national awards. That's something good to get to. We'll get to Monday Night Football as well. What's going on, John? You're up early.
I'm usually up early. I wake up at about 4:30 a.m. I got to get my writing done for the NBA stuff for VSiN, and got to get prep for the day. I also have to fit in, child rearing in between everything else that I do. So, and today's a big day because I'm going to attempt to go grocery shopping here after we are done recording on Thanksgiving week. So that's going to be I think a rage-inducing sort of venture.
Yeah, I was wondering why it's rage-inducing. What's so tough about Thanksgiving?
Well, I think it's people are crazy around shopping time and around shopping around this time, right? A lot of people have the week off for Thanksgiving, so they're getting all their stuff. And just generally, the more people that are involved in anything, just like more humanity, the worse that it gets. Because, you're just going to get a lot of people. Like, I've never had the cliched, in the movies, how, like, you're both going for the same can of, like, beans or whatever, and there's only one left. I don't think there's any of that, but there is a lot of, I'm here for me, and it doesn't matter how I inconvenience others. Generally, just crappy humanity. So I think that's probably going to be an issue as I go out there.
Well, that's the way of the world, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, 100%. That's exactly how it is. I try not to be like that, but maybe there's times where I am.
What's the number one goal? What do you have to get done that you're worried about? What food are you worried about getting?
Well, so we're deep frying the turkey for the first time, so I haven't bought the turkey yet. So that's the one thing that I'm going to go get. I have to go get ingredients. I'm going to make cornbread stuffing for the first time, or cornbread dressing, as they call it in the South. So I'm going to get ingredients for that. And then I've just got to go general grocery shopping for the family. So, like, that's the other part. It's like the weekly grocery trip, usually go on Mondays. That's like the big goal too. So I actually have to go shopping, which kind of sucks because I think that's going to be a pain in the ass.
Listen here, because I was actually going to get to this later, but here's Barry Odom talking about Thanksgiving and the whole stuffing versus dressing question. We'll fire this.
Depends. You call it stuffing, you call it dressing, whatever it is, it's awesome. I could eat it all day, every day. Turkey, we have ribs. I love barbecuing ribs. We got a lot of, chicken. We'll do a variety of things. Sweet potatoes can't go wrong. And I'm a big dessert guy. I know it's shocking, but any of those things I'm all about. We're going to bring in Hunky Cooper and Austin Van Pook, our director of operations. They're bringing in a unbelievable home cooked meal for our team on Thursday. We'll have a great Thursday morning practice. There's not anything like practicing on Thanksgiving morning, and then coming in and having fellowship together, and then get into what the 48-hour preparation looks like. So.
Right back. There's nothing like practicing on Thanksgiving morning. Nothing like practicing on Thanksgiving morning. Okay.
I will say this. So when was the last time, because you're kind of old and I'm getting up there, when was the last time you went on a Thanksgiving to go play football? Because that was one of the things, like 2-3 years ago, we went out to Desert Breeze Park, might have been a little bit longer now, to just go play football and on Thanksgiving morning. And we met this group out there that was taking it way too seriously. Like, we paired up with, like, there was a group of like 3 guys out there that wanted to go play. So we brought them into our team. So their guy was playing quarterback for us. And this team of guys, like, we're talking, Steve, I mean, like, a one play, I'm sitting there playing. I played center because I was the only one who could snap. I snapped the ball. This dude forearm shivers me, like, right in the chest, throws me to the ground, tackles our quarterback and drives him into the ground like he's in full pads. And I was like, bro, what are we doing? It's Thanksgiving morning. Like, I've already had one. Like, there's no need to do all of this. It was absolutely insanity. So when was the last time you played football on Thanksgiving?
Oh my God. Maybe early 20s, maybe mid 20s, just throwing it around. I don't think we actually played. I think we just threw around the football.
Oh yeah, no, we were playing. Like, it was to the point where actually I that was the worst groin injury I'd ever suffered, was that game, because that's how, like, overtly physical these guys were getting. It was insanity.
I will say, being in Florida with the weather here, I mean, it's kind of like Vegas. Yeah, but although Vegas does get, I don't even know what the temperature was the last couple of days in Vegas. Was it a little bit nippy? At least Vegas in November sometimes gets down to the 40s and 50s, but it's been beautiful here in Florida.
Yesterday was we try to take the kids out to the park almost every day. Yesterday was about 50 and windy. So yesterday was probably the coldest day that I've experienced so far in the winter.
Oh, wow. Nice. Any questions about Daytona? Have you been to Florida recently?
No, I mean, I just assume, given what I read in the news, that it's just anarchy, that there's just like things on fire and people running around with flags, and you know what I mean? Like people are accosting you on the street and asking you like questions and trying to take your money. That's all I assume.
None of that is going on. I will say Daytona is really quiet. It is the off season, but it's November and it's supposed to be, I think, 81 today. I mean, it's been awesome here the whole time. I don't want to assume certain things. Like, I don't think people around the country are like, screw Florida because of Meatball Ron, but it does seem kind of late here. I mentioned it on yesterday's podcast that I talked to a rideshare driver, and the rideshare driver just said the hurricane has kind of hurt the state in a lot of ways, that a lot of the beaches have been wiped away here in Daytona. And then the other thing is, and not to get too hardcore on this, it's funny, when you get in a rideshare car and you actually strike up conversation, you can find out some interesting things. A lady doing rideshare yesterday said she's also a real estate agent, and she said things have dried up here. One, because the interest rates suck, but two, there are so many houses that people want to sell, but they're tied up with insurance cases still from all the hurricanes from a couple of years ago, and they can't actually sell their house because their house hasn't been fixed and repaired from the hurricane. So like the whole state has freaking locked down in terms of movement, and I would guess that means that people don't have a ton of money, even in the state, to go over to the beaches and go on vacation.
I'm very pro rideshare conversation in places I'm not from, right? Like out here in Las Vegas, if I'm taking a rideshare out to like the Strip or something like that, like don't talk to me. I don't need to be talked to. Like I know the city, it's fine. But out there, like I'm down. I like to strike up conversations in spots that I've never been to because you like to learn.
No doubt. John Von Tobel's here with us. It's Cofield Company on a podcast today because we're not on this Tuesday. Unfortunately, the Runnin Rebels lost yesterday, so that means they go right into the 6 o'clock Eastern slot, 6:30 tip, 6 pregame with John Sandler and Curtis Terry, and that'll pretty much wipe out all of Cofield and Company, of course, 3 o'clock Pacific until 6 o'clock. But we're doing these podcasts every day this week just to make sure you're in tune with what's going on with Cofield and Company, as we also get ready for a massive game on the football front against San Jose State at Allegiant. So we'll get to that in a couple minutes. So I did get a chance post-game from Runnin Rebels to watch Monday Night Football last night. And, man, it felt really comfortable through about 2.5 quarters. And you're like, well, okay, all right, the Chiefs' defense is showing up, and Eagles aren't really moving it. And then the Chiefs bogged down in the second half, and the Eagles are able to get the ball going. And then the tush-push is just unbelievable. The brotherly shove is amazing when you're watching it, that game last night. But I think the biggest issue here, John, is the second halves for the Chiefs. I still wonder how this team got out to an 8-1 start. It means their defense has been unreal in the second half. Have they scored 53 points the entire season in the second half? How do you win a Super Bowl when you're averaging roughly, 5.3 points per game in the second half?
You have an amazing quarterback. Like you just overcome it. You just get hot when you get to the postseason. And I think that there's nuance to their struggles, right? When you talk about the lack of scoring in the second half, especially recently. I mean, you look at last night. How many key drops did they have yet again? There was a key third down. It was like a little quick slant that hit the receiver right in the hands. That thing got dropped. Obviously, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, we're all going to remember, with the deep pass downfield that would have maybe won them the game, that he dropped as well. And I will say, look, kudos on Mahomes getting it down there. It was a little ahead of Valdes-Scantling. Like a lot of people are going to look at MVS and go, how could you drop that? If it's like a half inch in, he's catching that thing. And I don't want to think, Patrick Mahomes is great, but we can say bad things about Patrick Mahomes too. But either way, this is how you're operating in the NFL, right? It's a game of centimeters, not inches. And if you're not putting it perfectly, then that can make the difference. But I saw a lot yesterday of I've never seen a game like this before from wide receivers. I was like, did you watch the opening game against the Detroit Lions? Because I thought there's a replay of that, right? Mahomes was under pressure. He was trying to move around, and his receivers kept letting him down left and right. And I think this is kind of the issue for their second half woes. There's a lot that you can put on the receivers, including Kelsey, who had a big drop too.
Yeah, Kelsey that was key. And I think for the season, the Mahomes has suffered from 26 drops. Mm-hmm. So it's funny. Yesterday on the show with Matt and Everett, I was talking about roster building and that the Chiefs basically made a decision once they paid Patrick Mahomes, $50 to $60 million. You have to sacrifice in other areas. And I think they've taken a lot of the money and put it to their defense, which is smart. Their defense is really good, but not so much at wide receiver. But here's the thing: in the history of the NFL recently, once quarterbacks got to like 40, 50, high $50 million, at that point, hey, quarterback, if you want all this money, then guess what? You ain't getting the high dollar receivers. You have to make the receivers better. And I brought up the examples of Aaron Rodgers over the years, who a lot of his receivers, when they went elsewhere, very ordinary. Tom Brady over the years, receivers look great with him. They go elsewhere, and they don't look so good. So this is a tough one because I think he's throwing them. I'm not going to say throwing them open. He's throwing quality passes most of the time, and he really is being let down. So I'm not sure what he's supposed to do.
No, I would agree. But here's the other thing, too. If you're talking about the front office and whatnot and building personnel, the other thing is you got to hit on the draft. And there's a lot of good, talented receivers that are available in like the second round, as we know, or in the back end of the first. I mean, you look at a team like Minnesota, right? Look at a team like Cincinnati. Their wide receivers are not guys that they brought in and signed. Those are guys that they drafted, they nailed, and they developed as really good pass catchers. So you can make up that difference by having an excellent scouting department. It's not like Kansas City has been awful in scouting. They've been very good. Like a lot of their defensive guys you mentioned too are good draft acquisitions offensively. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that they drafted and developed. But that's one of the ways you offset it is you've got to be able to draft guys and find these dudes at wide receiver that are going to help you out. And let's go back, right? Sky Moore, is he still on the team? Like, he hasn't really been as impactful. That was supposed to be one of them. Rashee Rice is one of those guys that you're hoping that is going to develop into something else. Yep. So you've got to be able to hit on those. Like, that's one a big one. If you're going to offset the fact that you're paying your quarterback, you got to be able to draft guys at wide receiver.